Good morning, dear students. This is your teacher Neelam Elawal. Today we will start with a new chapter which is called as Animal Kingdom, and this is your chapter number 4. Now, in this particular chapter, dear students, we'll be talking about the two things. First is the basis of classification. Second is the classification of animals. Means what are the different classes, groups in which the animals have been classified. So to begin with, we know, dear students, that if we look around, देखिए अपने आसपास देखिए आप, you will find there are different kinds of animals, and all of them, they have different shapes, they have different forms, they have different structures, and in totality on earth there are million species of animals that have been described till now. So it is not possible for us to study each animal individually, and since we have so many animals, the need for classification becomes more important. Okay. And we know, dear students, animals, they are multicellular animals, means they consist of many cells. What are they consisting of? They are consisting of many cells, and they are heterotrophic, means they depend on other organisms for food. Okay. And the number of animals is even more diverse in comparison to the plants. So that is why I'm telling you that classification becomes more, it becomes more important, so that we can study each and every organism. Okay. So animals, basically, they are multicellular and they are heterotrophic. That means they depend on other organisms for their food. Now coming to the first topic, that is, we call it as basis of classification. So how we can classify the organisms, we always need certain characteristics, right? Like suppose if I talk about a class and there are 40 individuals in the class, so what are the ways, or what is a criteria on the basis of which I can categorize the students, right? I have a class, in the class there are 40 students. So what are the ways of dividing those students into groups? How can I divide these 40 students in groups? So in that case also, I'll be using certain characteristics, like I can divide them on the basis of a roll number, like for 1 to 10 could be one group, 11 to 20 could be second, 21 to 30 could be third, and 31 to 40 could be fourth. So I can divide the 40 students into 4 groups on the basis of roll number, right? The second basis that I can use may be the sex of the child, that I can frame 2 groups, girls in one group and boys in the another. I might use another basis also, that is the percentage of marks. So on the basis of percentage of their marks, I can further categorize them. So here, for dividing the 40 students into different groups, I can use the roll number as a basis, the sex of the child as a basis, the percentage of marks. Likewise, in nature, we have millions of animals. So what is the basis that we can use to divide them? What is the basis that we can use to frame classes or groups, right? So we have basically 6 bases. Okay, we'll be using 6 characteristics. The very first is the levels of organization. Second is body symmetry. Third is germ layers. Fourth is coelom. Fifth is metamerism. And seventh is the notochord. So on the basis of these 6 features, we can frame different classes and different groups, or we can categorize the organisms on the basis of these characteristics into different groups. Let's start with the first one, that is the level of organization. See students, there are 3 levels of organization. One is cellular level of organization. Second is tissue level of organization. Third is organ level of organization. Now in first, that is cellular level of organization, here in the body of the animal, the cells will be arranged. Only cells will be present, and they will be lying loosely as here and there. Okay. So cellular level of organization means that the animal body contains only cells, like as we have in case of sponges. Tissue level of organization means here cells, they are arranged to form tissues. Okay, cells, they are grouped together on the basis of their structure and the function. So they are forming the tissues. So these organisms, they will have tissue level of organization like coelentrates and ctenophores. Third is a highest level of organization, which is called as organ level of organization. Here, the tissues, they will be arranged to form organs. So in first we have only cells, then cells form tissues, and then tissues, they further form the organs. So here the tissues, they will be arranged to form the organs, and the organs, they will associate to form the organ systems. So all higher animals like the human beings, platyhelminths, annelida, they all have organ level of classification. So on the basis of arrangement of cells, we can have three levels of organization. One is cellular level of organization, where only cells are present. Second is tissue level of organization, where cells, they aggregate, they they make groups. Similar cells, they are grouped together on the basis of structure and function, and this is called a tissue. Then we have the highest level of organization, which is called as tissue level of organization, right? And these organs, they can further, you can say, they can have one more organization, which is called as, these organs, they can club together to form the organ systems. And such organisms like platyhelminths, the chordates, they all have organ systems in their body. That is why they are referred to as complex organisms. Now coming to the, if I talk about the organ systems, like if we talk about the human beings, see, we have a respiratory system, we have a digestive system, we have a circulatory system, we have excretory system, isn't it? You must have studied in class 10th regarding the chapter life processes. So we have 4 different types of life processes, 4 different types of organ systems in our body, isn't it? So the different organs, they have different the different organisms, they have different complexities in their organ systems. Like in case of cnidarians, okay, and in case of platyhelminths, the digestive system is incomplete. They only have a single opening. Either they have mouth or they have anus. So single opening will be functioning as both mouth and the anus. While some organisms, they have complete digestive system. Complete digestive system means the digestive system will have 2 openings. One is mouth, another is anus. Then in some organisms, circulatory system is either open and in some it is closed. Like in case of human beings, it is a closed circulatory system. Means the blood, it flows in the blood vessels like the arteries, veins and the capillaries. Okay. But in few organisms, the blood does not flows in blood vessels. It is lying open in the cavities. Okay. Right? Okay, so open circulatory system means the blood does not flow in the you can say blood vessels. It is lying the tissues in say cells, they are directly bathing into the blood, while in closed circulatory system, the blood is circulating in the blood vessels. Okay. Now coming to the second part, that is called as the body symmetry. So what do we understand by the word body symmetry? Body symmetry means it is the arrangement of similar body parts on 2 sides of the main axis. Now suppose if this is the main axis, so it is the arrangement of body parts on either side of the axis. Okay, if this is a central axis, then arrangement of the body parts on the 2 sides of the axis. Now there are 2 symmetries possible. One is, there are 2 types. One is asymmetrical. Asymmetrical means the body cannot be divided into 2 equal parts. Okay, we cannot divide the body of an organism into equal parts. Then in that case, we can say that the body is asymmetrical, like as we have in case of snails and some sponges. So we cannot divide their body into equal parts. Symmetrical means the body can be divided into equal parts. Okay, the body of the animal, it can be divided into equal parts. So we say that the body is symmetrical. Now we have two types of body symmetry. One is a radial symmetry, another is bilateral symmetry. Let's understand the radial symmetry. Now suppose this is the animal. So we can divide this animal into two parts on either from any side. Okay, like from here also, from here also, from here also, from here. So from any plane. Like if you look at this, we can divide this animal into two equal parts like this if we have a central axis like this, or we can divide like this, or we can divide like this, or we can divide like this. So the body of the animal, okay, the body of the animal can be divided from any plane. Okay, the body of the animal, it can be divided into two equal halves. Okay, the body can be divided into two equal halves, right, from any plane that passes through the central axis. तो अगर हम किसी भी तरीके से इस एनिमल की बॉडी को जो है डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, फ्रॉम किसी साइड से भी डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, फ्रॉम एनी प्लेन, देन वी call it as you can say radial symmetry. So sponges, coelentrates, echinoderms, they all have radial symmetry. Second is bilateral symmetry. Okay, here the body of the animal, it can be divided into right half and the left half by an axis that passes through the longitudinal axis. तो इस केस में जो है हम एनिमल को, बॉडी को दो इक्वल हिस्सों में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं अगर हम उसे लॉन्गिट्यूडनली कट करते हैं. ठीक है, लाइक अगर ह्यूमन बॉडी को हम सेंटर से कट करते हैं, सपोज वी आर लाइक दिस, ह्यूमन बॉडी हमारी ऐसी है, दीज आर हैंड्स एंड देन योर फीट, राइट. So if we are cutting it like this from here, central axis, then only your body can be divided into two equal halves. So when we are dividing the body of the animal along the longitudinal axis, and then it is forming the two equal halves, that is left and right. So such a body symmetry is called as the bilateral symmetry. So whenever the body is divided longitudinally and it is having equal parts, so such an animal will have different portions of the body. Like the upper part of the body is called as dorsal side. Lower part is called the ventral side. Okay, and then there are left and right lateral sides. So अगर हम animal को divide कर रहे हैं, suppose हमने human beings को center से यहाँ से divide किया है, तो ये left portion है, ये right portion है. Okay, clear everyone? So one will have a dorsal side, it will have a ventral side, then we will have two sides, two lateral sides. Then where mouth is, then we call it as anterior side, and where tail is, we call it as the posterior side. So we have dorsal side, ventral side, lateral sides, then we have the anterior and the posterior side. Okay. Third is the germ layers. Okay, means the body cavity, the body wall. The wall of the body of the animal, it is comprised of how many layers? Okay, the layers of gastrula. Germ layers means the number of layers that are forming the body organs. So on the basis of number of germ layers, we can categorize the organisms as diploblastic or triploblastic. Diploblastic, as the word says, diploblastic means the body wall is made up of two germ layers. The outer one is the ectoderm, inner one is called as endoderm. Let's look into the picture. See this picture. This outermost is the ectoderm, innermost is endoderm, and in between there is a liquid which is called as mesoglea. So here the body of the animal is made up of two germ layers, ectoderm and the endoderm. Ectoderm is present on the outer side, endoderm is present on the inner side, and in between there is a liquid which is called as mesoglea. So the body is made up of two germ layers. So they are called as diploblastic. Okay, they are called as diploblastic. Now look at the second picture. Here, this is referred to as your ectoderm. Then this is your endoderm. In between there is a third layer, this orange and yellow layer. Okay, this layer is called as mesoderm. So there are three germ layers. One is endoderm, inner side, ectoderm on the outer side, mesoderm, which is present between the endoderm and ectoderm. So the organisms that contain three layers, three germ layers, they are referred to as triploblastic. Okay, the animals are called as triploblastic. Diploblastic means 2 layers. Triploblastic means 3 layers. Okay, is this clear? Okay. Now coming to the fourth component, which is called as coelom or the body cavity. Okay, what do we call it as? We call it as coelom or the body cavity. Now what is a body cavity or coelom? It is basically a space which is present between the body wall and the gut wall. देखिए सीलोम या बॉडी कैविटी क्या होती है? जो आपकी बॉडी वॉल और गट वॉल के बीच में जो स्पेस होती है वो आपकी सीलोम कहलाती है. ठीक है. So coelom basically it separates the muscles of the gut and the body wall. Okay, and on the basis of presence of coelom, we can categorize the animals into 3 types: acoelomates, pseudocoelomates, and coelomates. Now let's understand these terms. Let's come to the first one. Just look at this. Now we know that the body is made up of 3 germ layers, right? Triploblastic organisms, their body is made up of 3 layers. So this outermost is the ectoderm. Okay, everyone? This innermost is called as endoderm. And this yellow layer is called as, let's have different color, should I have? Mesoderm. So बाहर वाली जो लेयर है बेटा जी वो है एक्टोडर्म. अंदर वाली जो लेयर है वो है आपकी एंडोडर्म. आउटर इज एक्टो, इनर इज एंडोडर्म, एंड इन बिटवीन देयर इज अ लेयर विच इज कॉल्ड एज मीजोडर्म. देखिए ये भी मीजोडर्म लेयर है, ये भी मीजोडर्म लेयर है. तो येलो से आप दिख रहे हैं वो दोनों मीजोडर्म लेयर है. एंड बिटवीन द मीजोडर्म देयर इज अ बॉडी, देयर इज अ कैविटी. ओके, right. So your body cavity is bounded by the mesoderm layer on both sides. So body की जो cavity है बेटा वो दोनों साइड से mesoderm layer से surrounded है. Right? It is surrounded with mesoderm. So this type of cavity is called as coelom or the body cavity. ऐसी जो cavity है body के अंदर उसको हम कहते हैं body cavity और coelom. And the organisms that contain this kind of body cavity, coelom, are called as coelomates. ऐसे organisms को हम कहते हैं coelomates. What do we call them as? Coelomates means they contain coelom. Okay. So the cavity which is lined by mesoderm is called as coelom. The body cavity which is lined by mesoderm is called as coelom. Now let's look at the next part. Next diagram, B part. See, this is the ectoderm. The blue layer is all the ectoderm. Then you have this layer is called as your mesoderm. ये layer जो आपकी है endoderm है. In between देखिए ये आपकी body cavity है. Okay, बाहर की साइड जो पर्पल लेयर, ब्लू लेयर आपको दिख रही है वो आपका एक्टोडर्म है. अंदर की साइड जो लेयर आपको दिख रही है वो एंडोडर्म है. बीच में देखिए मीजोडर्म नहीं है. In fact, the mesoderm, it is existing as pouches. Mesoderm जो layer है बेटा वो animal के अंदर pouches की form में present है. Scattered pouches की form में present है. And body cavity is not lined by mesoderm. ना तो यहाँ पर mesoderm present है ना यहाँ पर mesoderm present है. So body cavity is not lined by mesoderm. In fact, mesoderm is occurring as a scattered pouches. So such a body cavity is called as pseudocoelom. इस body cavity को हम कहते हैं pseudocoelom. और जिन animals के अंदर ये pseudocoelom present होती है उन animals को हम कहते हैं pseudocoelomates. What do we call them as? Pseudocoelomates, right? Like the aschelmans. Okay. Then third, look at the third picture. Here this is your mesoderm. See. This is your endoderm. Innermost layer is endoderm. Outermost purple layer is ectoderm. And in between this layer, the red and yellow layer is your mesoderm. There is no cavity here. Okay. So the animals where body cavity is absent, they are referred to as acoelomates. Okay. They are referred to as acoelomates. So on the basis of coelom, we can categorize the animals into 3 types: acoelomates, pseudocoelom and coelomates. Right? I hope I am clear, everyone. Okay. So acoelomate means no coelom. That is, the space between the body wall and digestive cavity is filled with matrix, like as we have in case of porifera, coelenterata and flatworms. In case of pseudocoelom, the blastocele becomes the coelom and it is not lined by the mesoderm. True coelomates, or you can say coelomates, where the coelom is surrounded by mesoderm on both the sides, okay, like annelida to mammals. Apart from this, there are certain animals, like in case of arthropoda, like insects and mollusca. The true coelom is reduced, okay, it is smaller in size and it is filled with blood, okay. The true coelom is filled with blood. So coelom is filled with blood. So in that case, those animals are referred to as hemocoelomates. What do we call them as? Hemocoelomates. Now suppose I'm just cutting the body cavity of this. Just let's talk about the acoelomate. देखिए acoelomates, जैसे कि हमने एग्जाम्पल की बात की है कि acoelomates वो ऑर्गेनिजम्स होते हैं जिनके अंदर बॉडी कैविटी एब्सेंट होती है. तो अगर हम उनकी बॉडी को कट करते हैं तो देखिए दिस विल बी द पिक्चर. इफ यू सी हियर, this yellow portion is formed from endoderm. Okay, this outer portion which is highlighted with sky blue is made with ectoderm, and this red portion, okay, this tissue filled with region, this is formed of mesoderm, right? So there is no cavity between the mesoderm, any germ layers. तो germ layers के बीच में कोई cavity नहीं होती है acoelomates में. Coming to the you can say pseudocoeloms, just look at this. This is your endoderm, the yellow portion, right? Then this sky blue portion is the ectoderm, and in between this red portion is made up of mesoderm, and there is this cavity which is present between the endoderm. तो यहाँ पर जो body cavity present है वो endoderm और mesoderm के बीच में present है. So the cavity is not lined by mesoderm from both sides. दोनों साइड से जो mesoderm कैविटी को सराउंड नहीं करती है, इसलिए ये नकली सीलोम है. नाउ कमिंग टू द थर्ड विच इज़ एन एनालिडा. हमने अर्थवॉर्म को कट किया है, सो वी आर टेकिंग दिस. यहाँ देखिए जो येलो लेयर है, अगेन इट इज़ एंडोडर्म. बॉडी की जो बाहर की कवरिंग है वो एक्टोडर्म से है. बीच में देखिए, ठीक है, बीच में लुक एट दिस, ये जो रेड लेयर है उस रेड लेयर के बीच में कैविटी प्रेजेंट है. सो दैट इज़ वाई दे आर, सो mesoderm के अंदर कैविटी प्रेजेंट है, that is why these organisms they are called as coelomates. What do we call them as? Coelomates. So body cavity is lined by mesoderm on all sides. Now what are the functions of coelom? Okay, why we're talking about the coelom? So what is the importance of coelom? What are the functions of coelom? First of all, it accommodates the visceral organs. ठीक है, सारे विसरल ऑर्गन्स जो हैं वो आपकी बॉडी कैविटी के अंदर मौजूद होते हैं, सीलोम के अंदर मौजूद होते हैं. सेकेंडली, इट प्रोवाइड्स फ्लूइड और यू कैन से इट प्रोवाइड्स अ मॉइस्ट एनवायरनमेंट टू योर ऑल ऑर्गन्स. ये आपकी बॉडी के सभी ऑर्गन्स को एक मॉइस्ट एनवायरनमेंट प्रोवाइड करती है. एंड इट एब्जॉर्ब्स द शॉक. ये जो है शॉक्स को एब्जॉर्ब करती है और फ्रिक्शन को मिनिमाइज कर देती है. ठीक है, फ्रिक्शन को मिनिमाइज कर देती है. सो बॉडी को जो है झटका कम लगता है, बॉडी को शॉक कम लगता है, राइट. ऑर्गन्स जो हैं वो ड्राई नहीं होते, सेफ रहते हैं. नाउ कमिंग टू द फिफ्थ पार्ट विच इज कॉल्ड एज मेटामेरिज्म और सेगमेंटेशन. देखिए, इफ यू लुक एट सर्टेन एनिमल्स लाइक अर्थवॉर्म, इफ यू लुक एट द अर्थवॉर्म, द बॉडी इज डिवाइडेड इनटू स्मॉल सेगमेंट्स. ओके, the body of the earthworm is divided into small segments. So similarly in case of Nereis also, in case of you can say leech, the body is divided into small segments. These small segments, they are called as metameres, and this segmentation is called as metamerism, and it is quite common in case of annelids and arthropodas. Okay, so they have external segmentation as well as internal segmentation. But there are few invertebrates that only show internal metabolism, जिनकी बॉडी जो है वो अंदर से छोटे छोटे सेगमेंट्स में डिवाइडेड है, बट एक्सटर्नली इट इज़ नॉट. So in case of few invertebrates also, the body is internally divided into small segments. But in case of earthworm, nereis, leeches, annelida and arthropoda, we find that the body is internally as well externally. It is divided into small segments, and these small segments, they are called as metameres, and this phenomena is called as metamerism. Now coming to the notochord. See, notochord basically beta, ये आपकी mesoderm से बनती है. Okay, so it is a rod-like structure. It is a rod-like structure that is formed from the mesoderm, and it is present on the dorsal side of the embryo. ये embryo की dorsal side पर present होती है. So जिन animals के अंदर notochord होती है, they are called as chordates, and the animals which does not have notochord, they are called as non-chordates. So it is one of the structures that can be used as a basis for dividing the organisms, whether they belong to chordates or they belong to non-chordates. Like as you can see in the picture, this is your notochord. As you can see here, this is the notochord. This structure, let me use a different color. This structure is your notochord. This structure that I am highlighting with blue, this structure is notochord. If the animals, they contain notochord, we call them as chordates. If they do not have this structure, we call them as non-chordates. Okay. So these are the bases. These are the 6 bases, on the basis of what we could classify the organisms into classes, right? So for today's work, first of all, you will be making notes of this topic, and you will read the page numbers. What page numbers you will read? From 46 to 48. Okay, everyone? And if there is any doubt, any query that you feel, you will discuss those queries with me. Fine? Okay. So finish your notes of this topic and read the page numbers. And it's very important, dear students, there are certain words which are written with dark black color. So don't forget to underline and understand them, right? Okay, so that's all for today. Bye everyone.